Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, I hope you're doing well today, and that whenever and wherever in the world you find yourself listening to this recording, that you are remembering to love and appreciate the joy and the beauty in the nature surrounding you. Don't forget to smell the roses, hug the dogs, and pet the cats. And remember that it's more important to not sweat the petty things. And also, don't pet the sweaty things. Spoken like a Heyoka Virgo, right? Well, I don't think I was crying in my sleep, and I didn't wake up in a fetal position, so maybe we're making some kind of progress. I don't know. I think I had weird dreams still, but not as weird as the last few days. I'm recording this a little late. Sorry about that, guys. I have been just absolutely exhausted. I couldn't leave the house today. Today was the day I was supposed to go get health insurance, and I woke up and I was like forcing myself to get out of bed. Mentally completely foggy, totally clear, not clear, opposite of clear, see? Totally dyslexic, no. I got up to make my coffee and I was just dragging. And I got all my coffee drunk and I was thinking, all right, force myself to get dressed. I looked out outside and it was just like, my building was surrounded in a cloud and it was pouring rain. And I was like, I'm sorry, this kitty cat's not going outside today. There's just no way in hell. This happened last week too. Like last Thursday, I was going to go out and do this stuff. And same thing. It was like super, super rainy. And I just felt like that's the universe's way of saying nope. And it's just not even safe. I mean, to get down to the street level, I have to go outside on a staircase that's marble or tile. Actually, it's tile. It's not even marble. But it's kind of somewhat slippery. You know what I mean? It's like, and I had broken my leg before. I don't want to take any chances, you know? It's just, gives me just the worst feeling, you know? You know, it's like fairly stable and safe to walk on, but I mean, it's just, I don't know. I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to it. That, and I was stiff and sore and just feeling so yucky. Like yucky all day, like just blah. So I asked higher guidance and I got the answer. We're still at 99 on the Ascension Symptom Scale. You know, and I was trying to get some financial things done today. I wanted to make an investment. Someone had contacted me on Twitter and told me all this amazing investment related stuff, and I went to the website that she told me about and I found out it was like a phishing site, you know, and I thought it might be, I'm always skeptical and leery of these things, but I found the website that it originated from, and it's a pretty great site, and I'm gonna do some stuff with it for a couple weeks, and if something lovely comes out of it, I'm gonna put my information out there. So if you guys wanted to invest and make money back, you only need $30 to start. So I'm not going to start that small, but I'm going to start relatively small, and we'll see, you know, if they could build up my confidence and trust, then I guess I'll go through them quite a bit, you know, obviously. You know, I have a couple little tiny investment related things, but not anything that's going to sustain me for more than like a few days. You know, it's just, I don't know. It's like, It's like one thing in which I lack, and like the knowledge and ability to do this stuff. Like, I don't know. It's just, it's all so frustrating to me, this whole trying to invest for your future thing. I don't know. It's like, I'm supposed to retire in 15 years, and I like have enough in savings to last me 3 months. So, I don't know. I didn't do this part of my life right. I don't know. I mean, I've like spent years researching this stuff too, and I'm just still like just as perplexed as ever for the most part. But speaking of perplexedness, in A Course in Miracles, we are up to lesson 44. You can read this full lesson at acim.org, or you can download any number of apps for free that have the lessons. They have the lessons absolutely free. And it's worth it. It's worth it. It's brought me a great deal of peace of mind over the years. Okay, lesson 44 in A Course in Miracles says, God is the light in which I see. Again, it says, God is the light in which I see. Today we are continuing the idea for yesterday, adding another dimension to it. You cannot see in darkness, and you cannot make light. You can make darkness and then think you see in it. But light reflects life, and therefore an aspect of creation. Creation and darkness cannot coexist. But light and life must go together, being but different aspects of creation. In order to see, you must recognize that light is within, not without. You do not see outside yourself, nor is the equipment for seeing outside you. An essential part of this equipment is the light that makes seeing possible. It is with you always, making vision possible in every circumstance. And it goes on and on and on. So that's just the beginning. Again, lesson 44, the main idea. God is the light in which I see. Okay, now why do I want to sing Flashlight? Remember that disco tune from the 70s? Even if you're not old enough to remember the 70s, I know you know the song. It's like so popular. All right. I'm going to go and read something to you. First of all, we're going to go to disclosure.it and look at the notations from the scientists in Italy who record the Schumann resonance, because this note today was very weird. All right. It says flat calm. For the second day in a row, the amplitude has been at low value. Unusual lately. I quite agree. Isn't that weird? Now, that's in Italy, flat calm. We're going to go to these other countries that I read from yesterday, because I feel like we need to have more of a global perspective, not just one place. And I didn't realize it was different in different cities, or I mean, like wildly different. Like, you're not going to believe some of what I saw. This website is freaking impossible. Like, I have it queued up, and then when I look at it again, it's just like completely impossible. I had it for today, and then all of a sudden it's over to the 3rd of July, and it's like, nobody cares about what happened 3 weeks ago, dude. All right. All right. So this is just very bizarre. Let me see. It doesn't even have today's date on it, and I had queued up the whole darned thing. Dag nabbit. All right, here we go. Oh, which gives me plenty of time to remember. Happy birthday to my grandmother in heaven. I miss her so much. And July 22nd is her birthday. I want to tell you guys a quick story about this because I thought this was cool. One day my grandmother was at the mall. She was a mallaholic. She was a shopaholic. She was an alcoholic too, but she was sober, except for maybe 2 days out of her life that I knew her. For the most part of my life, she was sober. Oh, but when she wasn't sober, she would get dark. Oh, so dark. Just like brooding and worrying and staring into her very elegant glass of scotch with the tinkling little balls of ice. Oh, there's like a weird romance in my mind about that. The romantic brooding sips. Like if my grandmother had been a writer, that would have been perfect, right? But she wasn't. She was very proud to tell everybody that would listen that she was a housewife, absolutely in love with my grandpa. And after he died, she never dated. I tried to set her up with a Native American, full-blood Cherokee Apache man that I knew. She was so pissed off at me. I'm like, why? He's like, don't you think he's sexy? She's like, well, yeah, actually I do, but I'm like, oh, he had the hots for my grandma. My grandma did not look her age, and she was very beautiful, and she dyed her hair blonde, and so she, like, even when she was 80, she still looked like 55, 60. She never looked her age, and she always like wore gold jewelry and plunging necklines, and she always was like a sexy grandma. She called herself a sexy grandma. And her last name, like me, was Fox, and she went by a nickname Foxy Lady. So anyway, one day, while being her mallaholic, shopaholic self, she went to the mall, and she was just really like thinking that no one's gonna remember her birthday this year. She just had this sinking feeling inside, and she was very sweet and very shy person, and she wasn't gonna remind anybody, but no one had mentioned her birthday coming up like every year they would, and she was really upset, and she was like, no one's gonna remember my birthday. And she said a prayer about it in the morning. She was like, God, I'm not going to tell anybody, and I'm not asking for anything, but I just want someone to kind of acknowledge it's my birthday. In my family, birthdays were very special. We celebrate like big time. Everyone's birthday is like a big cause for it's like a holiday. And, like balloons, flowers, cake, singing, gifts, money. It's a whole thing. The whole family has like a whole day long get together. I mean, it's a big deal. So she was just feeling kind of down on herself that one year, and she's just like, dude, I don't know. So she prayed, and she's like, God, please don't allow, or please allow everyone to remember my birthday. I just feel so bad about myself this year. And for whatever reason, she was just like, I don't know, just having a slump, So she went to the mall, and she was just kind of trying to get over it by shopping her way through it, mall therapy, shop therapy. And she had bought whatever it is that she bought, and I think she bought herself like a little vase or something to put flowers in. She figured if no one remembered her birthday, she'll go out and buy herself flowers, and she would time her grocery store shop, like on that day, the day after people did remember. So she kind of was, because she was really down on herself. So anyway, she was on her way out to her car, and she found a pin that said Egbok, E-G-B-O-K, which was, at that time, they were trying to have it catch on, Egbok, and it means everything's gonna be okay. And she's like, oh, how sweet is that? All right, fine, that's good. And then she was approaching her car, and right in front of her car on the ground was a bright red pin, and on it said July 22nd, which is her birthday. And this was like a week before her birthday. And she's like looking around like, what the hell does that mean? Like, where'd that come from? And she never saw a pin like that since. And she was at the mall quite often. So if it was like some kind of a campaign for something, she would have known. And she said, she's like, I just knew that everything was going to be fine. She didn't tell us until the day of her birthday. And of course, my mom and I went over and we had a big deal. I think that might have been the year I bought her a birthday card of, it's Clint Eastwood looking oh so very sexy, tied up in ropes and with his cowboy hat and his cowboy boots on in the middle of a Wild West town. And he's like his pants were like kind of covered in dirt. He looked a little kind of gritty, but sexy gritty, And he had the 5 o'clock shadow going, and it doesn't always look good on every man, but on Clint Eastwood, oh, it looks really nice. So I bought this card for her, and that was the front picture, and you open it up and it said, I wanted to get you the thing you exactly wanted for your birthday. Meaning, of course, Clint Eastwood tied up for your birthday. So my grandma kept that up in her room like a piece of art, literally for the rest of her life. And she's like, every time I look at that card, she's like, oh, don't you dare look at my boyfriend. I caught you. You're looking at my boyfriend again. And she loved it. She said, she's like, I could just spend hours looking at him. That was one of her favorite actors of all time. John Wayne was another one. Old Wild West movies and books and everything Zane Grey ever wrote was a big, huge part of my family's life as well. It's like, we read about cowboys, but we were the Indians. So, my whole family kind of represented the whole Wild West to me. It's so weird. But, that in California, like all of those things combined somehow that's the thing. But, anyway, but that was my grandma's crazy day. She's like, she's never depressed. She was never, very rarely. Once or twice a year would she even have a bad day. She had a really pretty good life, especially when my grandpa was still alive. So I just thought that was weird that sometimes the universe will bring to you exactly what you need in the exact right moment. And that was pretty miraculous. Out of all of the days of the year, and why would you have a button or a pin to pin on your lapel or on your coat that would have a date like that? It just seems so arbitrary and random. And there was nothing in the mall. There was no one sold these in the mall. There was nothing at all. Why would it just say July 22? It was just so weird. It's literally an angel came and put this in her path. And my grandma had a lot of encounters with angels and butterflies and things that, just let her know constantly how loved she was by God. She needed that a lot, and she got the signs and the symbols, and she went around telling everyone about it. So that would strengthen her faith, and then it would strengthen the faith of those around, And my grandma wasn't particularly religious. She wasn't really religious at all. Not that much. She was kind of raised Southern Baptist, but she never went to church. She could give a flying fig less about going to church. but she was very, very spiritual, and when the New Age movement came around, she was the same, interest as I had, and as my mom. We were all like, oh, what are the crystals for? You can meditate with crystals? What? That's so weird. All that stuff that just seems so super, like, not supernatural, but supernatural to us now. It was stuff that really wasn't, it was just like, what? This is weird. Reincarnation, that's weird. Like, all these concepts that everybody completely seems to accept, like 85% of the U.S., I think, I don't know, I forgot when I did my show on the statistics of are you the weird one in your family. But yeah, I think it was like something like 75 to 85% of all Americans now believe in reincarnation. But boy, in the 80s, no one did. It was just like, there's like a few people I'd hear talk about it, and they'd say, when I come back, I'm going to be a fly or a cat or a cow, or, like, no one ever really knew what reincarnation meant. And we just keep coming back as people until we get it right, or until we've experienced all the things we needed to do, and, went through all the karmic debts, repaying all the karmic debts. So I don't know, the idea, like, these ideas were all so new. And so this stuff had been happening to my grandma for a long, long time. And especially with money. God would bring my grandma money all the time. She was super lucky when it came to money. And it would just like fall in her lap. One day she popped me on a plane. She's like, okay, come on, let's go. We'll get on the plane together. And that was back before Homeland Security and all the crap that we have to go through now. So my mom and my grandma walked me onto the plane, and I was going to fly back to my dad. I lived with my dad, and so I was going back home to get ready for school to start again. And I was like maybe 15 or 14, and they walked me onto the plane, and they said, oh, well, we have a seat in first class if you don't mind. And I'm like, oh, hell, I don't mind at all. All right, let's go to first class. So they popped me into the first class, and I sat right down, and my grandmother's like, oh, would you look at this? And there's a teeny tiny envelope sticking out of the seat that I had just been upgraded to that moment. And she pulled it out, and there was $40, 2 crisp $20 bills in it. And she's like, well, there you go. I mean, that was my grandma. It was like that was her life always. Like where she went, when she was around, like she'd go to the bank. She'd been banking at for a long time, come home with like a gift, toaster or a knife or whatever. I think she went and bought a Wells Fargo bear at Wells Fargo for my son when he was born. Or maybe it was a horse. I think it was a horse. It's like, oh, would you look what they just happened to have when I went to the bank today? It was just stuff like that constantly. I mean, it was like always very, very lucky. She was a very lucky individual. But anyway, today was her birthday. Would have been her birthday. God rest her soul. She passed a number of years ago. But anyway, I just wanted to honor her with a little bit of family memories and my family history a little bit. But I thought you guys would find that really odd about the July 22nd button. Like, how bizarre, right? Out of all the weird things that a person can find. So, all right, let me see. Here we go. Now it has it perfectly, July 22nd. I mean, it should have more on there. Okay, here we go. There we go. Now, there's several, like every hour for several hours, it does have what the Schumann resonance is. I'm only going to read one of them. So, July 22nd at 4 o'clock. It doesn't say what time, like what time zone. Oh, darn it. That's weird. Why does it not say? And I'm afraid for this thing to move again. Okay. So in California, they don't say what city. In California, today the Schumann resonance was 185. 185. Now, in Hofuf, Saudi Arabia, and this one is really freaking weird. It's literally 0. Like, wait a minute, isn't the Earth supposed to be putting off a 7.83 minimum? It's literally 0. But then we go over to, wait a minute, oh, what the thing just moved. And now it actually, in Saudi Arabia, it was 4 just an hour before. It went from 4 to 0. And the other one was 180 just an hour before. So this is why this is so strange. All right, let's see. I'm trying to get the final reading for the day, which is at 4 o'clock. There we go. Sorry. Now, the third site is Lithuania. And in Lithuania, the Schumann resonance today was 269. 269. Now, remember how in Alberta, Canada, it was insanely high, like 389 yesterday, something like that. Well, now in Alberta, Canada, it's 0. What the hell is going on? And then in Northland, New Zealand, it's 0. But in Honolulu, South Africa, it's 129. So I don't know what to say about that. I mean, it's literally never supposed to be 0. So in 3 places out of the 6 places around the globe, it's just 0. And the top place, of course, being 269 in Lithuania. And in California, 185. And in South Africa, 129. So I don't know, honestly, what to make of this. It's just, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep mentioning these and see what's going on. But how can it be 0? I mean, that's just really, really weird. So, all right, I'm going to see if there's anything out of in the global consciousness. No. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, there's nothing on the global consciousness random network variance. There's like nothing. It's nothing out of range or anything. It just seems normal. It just seems like totally normal. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this stuff. Anyway, well, there you have it. Your guess is as good as mine, darling, because I don't know. It could explain some of the really weird feelings and symptoms we've been having for the past 3-4 days. People are feeling really strange, you know? Like this guy who contacted me today to invest with this company, and I told you guys that the website I went to was a scam website, and this guy contacted me. He's like, well, I'm from the blah, blah, blah website. And I'm like, but I've never been on that website. What are you talking about? Are you trying to scam me right now? I'm like, did I just click, like customer service for the wrong website, or was their website hijacked? And I mean, we went around and around. We had arguments. I called him a dick. I said, you're insulting me and, you're trying to steal my money. And he's like, no, the other person's trying to steal your money. And we went around and around until we both had to figure out that his site was real, but it had been cloned. But it took us like a while. And he's like, why are you confusing me? And he kept saying, why are you confusing me? And I'm like, I'm not confusing you. You keep confusing me. Like he started talking about random stuff that had nothing to do with anything. And the customer service person, I guess when they clone a website, sometimes they can't clone where the customer service, they can't take that with them. So it goes back to the original customer service. So I looked up Scam Advisor and I looked up their website versus the other scam website. And I found the scam website was only 100 days old, whereas theirs was over a year and 59 days old. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. So obviously he's not lying to me and he's okay and everything's okay. And then I went to the website again and it said it was a 5-year website. I'm like, but that's a lie. And he's like, yeah, that is problematic and that's starting to bother me. I'm going to talk to them. So I got back on the original website and said, why does it say that? And they're like, we don't know. We're going to get that removed. That's not right. That shouldn't be there. And then I found out that it was it was a totally different website before, and they changed the company name. So I think that's where the thing came from. But it was just like all kinds of weirdness and confusion today around all of these websites and all of the information. And half of it was erroneous and half of it was completely right on. And I mean, it was just like again and again, over and over again, just a whole conglomerate of confusion with the Schumann resonance and the Mercury retrograde. It's like, it's a wonder we're not all just in a freaking coma. Anyway, all right, this episode tonight, I'm actually dedicating to my good friend Wayne, because it was his idea. And if you guys have ideas for upcoming shows, you want me to explore strange cultures or cultural norms or really bizarre stories. Like I've been thinking about the green children of Woolcroft or Wolcott. I think it's Wolcott in Ireland. There was the case of these strange green children. There's also a case of strange blue people in the Appalachian Mountains where their skin's really blue. There's some weird stuff around the globe where like this. So if you have any kind of ideas for upcoming episodes that you want me to, things you want me to research and cover, I will do it. If it's something weird, paranormal, supernatural, or just plain out flat bizarre. I mean, I love weird stories. Or ghost stories. And by the way, okay, we're coming up on Christmas in July in 2 days, so I'm going to start announcing this now. I need you guys to please, because Christmas is coming up. It's going to be here faster than we know it. I need your stories about Christmas miracles. I need your stories about times in which you encountered angels or Santa Claus or the Spirit of Jesus on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, because I'm hoping in December to try to put these stories out there. If I could do that every day in December, that would be freaking cool. I want to get, leading up on through Christmas, I am going to tell you guys stories. I'm going to try to tell you, encounters I had with Santa Claus, Christmas miracles that I witnessed, and I want to share your stories as well. So I am going to start the call now. 2 days early, 3 days early. Christmas in July is July 25th. which incidentally is a day out of time. I will go over all that on the July 25th, but I'm putting it out there now. I want you to write your best writing, or you can tell me the story over anchor.fm/metaphysical. You have to download the app or at least do it online. And you have to favorite my podcast, Metaphysical Soul Speak, the podcast. And when you do that, you can send me a story. And if you say private, I will tell your story for you. If you want your voice out there, I will save this because I would love to have 25 days of Christmas stories. 25 days of miracles, and especially as it pertains to Kris Kringle, Père Noël, Santa Claus, Sinterklaas, wherever you come from, I want to talk about, because I know he's real. I do believe in Santa because I have seen him with my own eyes a couple times. So I'm going to put my stories out there, but I want to couple it with your stories as well. So there you have it. All right. This show tonight is dedicated to my friend Wayne. As I said, this is all about ley lines. Woo! All right. Right after this quick message, you got about 2.5 minutes to go, grab your Snickers bar or your strawberry Fanta. I don't know what you people do. But I'll be right back after this. If you're listening to this, you obviously like podcasts, and you probably like music too. Long walks on the beach, romantic dancing under the stars, and oh wait, we're not doing that right now. On Spotify, you can listen to all of that in one place for free, and you don't even need a premium account, which is cool. Free is always good. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcasts so you never miss an episode. Download episodes to listen to offline wherever you are, including your long romantic walks on the beach. Also, one thing I love about Spotify is that you can easily share what you're listening to with your friends via Spotify's integrations with the social platforms like Instagram. So that makes it really, really versatile. Just search for Metaphysical Soul Speak on the Spotify app or browse podcasts in the Your Library tab. And follow me, of course, don't forget, so that you'll never again miss an episode of Metaphysical Soul Speak. Spotify is the world's leading music streaming service, and now it can be your go-to for podcasts too. Thank you guys so much for supporting Metaphysical Soul Speak on Spotify. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you. All right, I said that this Ley Lines episode is dedicated to my good friend Wayne. Wayne and I became friends after finding each other on myspace.com, and we were playing the game of pets where you make your friends into pets and you buy and sell your friends. It's like nothing okay about this game. Like at all. Buying and selling people, not okay. Calling them pets, not okay. Treating them like animals, not okay, unless you treat your animals very well. Then maybe slightly okay. I don't know. But this is how we met. And one day he wrote me on MySpace and he said, you know, people always meet online and they don't meet in person. And we live in the same damn town. You know, it's not like we can't just get together for a meal or to go fishing at the duck park or something, you know. We should be able to get together for a soda, don't you think? Like, you know, he's like, after all, we're kind of like neighbors. I'm like, you know what, that is true. We lived in a small town, Paradise, California. I lived in Paradise Pines, which was otherwise known as Magalia. In our beautiful town, most of Magalia and all of Paradise burned down to the ground. Like, I don't know. How long's it been now? 7 months? Something like that. I mean, in a matter of hours, like 5 hours, boom, town's gone. Completely gone. In a huge forest fire. And thank you, God, Wayne and his family, they escaped. His parents, they escaped with their lives. Thank God. They all moved to Arkansas, where his brother was living, and now the whole family is together. And my friend I met here in Ecuador, actually in Cuenca, I met through her brother, who I'd met him in Colombia, and I'd met him again in Lima. We got together and went dancing in Peru. And then one day I was like, hey, Jordan, guess what? I'm going to be over in Cuenca soon. Have you ever heard of it? And he says, heard of it? I live here now, and all of my family lives here. Well, his sister Rainey was here visiting when I came here, and we met and we became very good friends. And she just so happens to live in Arkansas now. Like, it's weird how things end up. Well, now Wayne and Rainey are my friends, and now they're friends with each other, which is super cool. Anyway, I love how like connections in this world work, you know? It's like we're all soul family, just looking for each other. We're hashtag soul tribe, hashtag soul family. And we've all been looking for each other, for the spiritual ones and the open-minded, cool, fun-loving, you know, people that are gentle and love art and music. And, you know, it's just, we've all been looking for each other, you know, and my friend Wayne is a very cool person, and he's like one of the very few people in the world that I feel like I could totally trust. I totally feel comfortable around. You know, I don't feel that way about most people. A lot of people. No, I won't say most, but a lot of people. It's hard to find our tribe, don't you guys think? So anyway, he's one of my kin. You know, he was one of my fellow townsmen back in the day, and he ended up living in this house that was so adorable. I just loved this house. And his roommate decided, it was her house, and one day she said, you know, screw it. I'm not going to pay the mortgage anymore. I'm just going to leave. And she abandoned the house, and one of her cats, named Sugar, who still lives with Wayne and traveled across country with him. Sugar's this huge, white, amazing cat. And she abandoned the house. Well, when I was looking for a house to buy to live with my children, I looked at a couple different houses, and that one was on the market. Like, they finally had foreclosed on it and put it on the market. And, you know, Wayne had already moved out, you know, months before. And I'm like, oh my God, guess what? That house is on the market. You know, I might buy it. And I almost did. I was so close to buying it. It was just such an amazing house. And it was at the Lower Paradise and really close to Chico. So everything we knew and loved in that area was very close. And I don't know, God put me in a weird way with my car, and I had to buy a new car. And I had already talked about all this before, but one thing led to another, and I lost the ability to have the loan for this house. And I'd been approved for it 2 months before. And then when I finally looked at the house and put a bid in, and they accepted the bid, but then the loan didn't go through. Oh well. But I'm grateful now, because one of the first houses that burned down in the fire was that house, and it was gone by 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm sound asleep until noon every day, so I would have died. Absolutely would have died for sure. There's no way in frickin' hell I would have lived through that. I would have died. My kids would have said, Mom, wake up. I would have said, no, it's not noon. Going back to bed. But there's a fire. Oh, they'll alert us. And they didn't alert anybody. My kids and I would have died. I just know it. I just feel it. We would have all died. That would have been our end. So, I don't know. I've thought about this a lot, that possibly there's some weird juju going on with Paradise. There's always been some weird stuff going on there between McGalley and Paradise. And I wonder if it's not part of a negative ley line, maybe ley lines are negative as well as positive. Maybe they're spiritual, but maybe they could be cursed, right? So I've thought about that on and off for a while, because I know that there's a big, huge corridor of energy up and down California, all the way up to Alaska. I just feel, but it seems to me that there's some negativity there, as well as really freaking strong, intense karma. And I did a show early on, I think in February, about karmic cities. And I talked about Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara is definitely a part of this. Chico, there's some weird stuff going there, but not as weird as Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara, I honestly think Santa Barbara is a node. And I'm going to tell you guys that is in a moment. So let's get into this. Let's get into ley lines. First of all, the way you spell it is Ley, ley lines. And ley lines are the phrase ley lines were first coined, this phrase was first coined by Alfred Watkins, who lived in England. And in 1921, he theorized that these lines, he just theorized that there was an ancient, like a connection between all of the ancient sites and megaliths, and that he kind of realized they were in some sort of an alignment, and it just seemed too odd of a coincidence to not be something kind of real, like there's something to it. He was an amateur archaeologist, and when he first came up with this idea, he called them leys. There's leys, Leys, and then later he called them ley lines. And he said whether a structure was like man-made or natural, if it had something to do with spirituality or religion or something to do with God, like it seems like there's these lines that you could draw from one point to another, not just between 2 points, but sometimes between 10 points, and it's a straight line. And he felt like there was probably a grid of points that have a supernatural or magical power or quality to them, very much like the latitude and longitude lines that span the globe now. But obviously, just like latitude and longitude lines, these lines are invisible. They're just assumed to be there, right? But he believed that these lines intersected at regular intervals or junctions, and at the intersections there are pockets of energy. And it's potentially, I mean, if it's magical or supernatural and there's pockets of energy just hanging around, this would also be concentrated energy and also would be very easy to harness if you have an ability to wield power, such as somebody who's, say, highly intuitive, psychic, or telepathic, clairvoyant, can see the future. People that were magicians, maybe they could create healing. If they live along these lines and they have access to that power, and they could channel it or rechannel it through them. It's already being channeled through the earth like rivers of flowing energy. Now, there have been a lot of skeptics that don't believe in ley lines. They just think it's a bunch of hooey, and it's just, you could draw a line between anything and anything. You draw a line between all movie theaters and go, see, there's a ley line, and I think that that's just, well, I don't believe in skeptics. I think they're a bunch of hooey. I don't think they exist. Who are these fabled people that poo-poo everything everyone else says? And how dare they interfere with our fun? These are the people that got picked last at kickball in grade school, and they grew up to be mean, scientific-minded bullies who just want to screw with everyone's magic. But I mean, in a way, I could see the point. Okay, well, sure, there's a line between this church and that church. Must be a ley line. No. What if it's a line between those two churches and 5 other churches, and they happen to be all the same in energy or in name? That might be along a ley line. Now, on a couple different websites, I discovered that there are ley lines called the St. Michael ley line, but there's 2 of them. There's one that goes all the way through Wales, and it has like 10 or 12 points that all are related to Archangel Michael, St. Michael. And it's just weird, right? Yeah, but then you could say, well, for argument's sake, there are a lot of Catholics. Archangel Michael, he's the one that gets the most press. Gabriel being a close second, Raphael close third, the third, and who the hell is Uriel? No one ever hears about him because Archangel Michael's hogging all the limelight as far as angels are concerned. So much so that they made him a human saint, even though he's an angel. Never figured that one out. Of course he's an angel. Of course he's a saint. If you want to say that he only does God's bidding, because that's what angels do. That's what archangels do. But I regress. Or transgress? No. Regress? No. Digress, that's the one. I'm going to digress so we can have more progress. So, another line dedicated to Saint Michael is called the Michael Ley line. And this one is drawn from Southern Ireland all the way to Israel. And there are 7 different landforms that have the name Michael in them. I mean, Wales is just one teeny tiny country, but this is a little bit more interesting, right? Ireland to Israel. Very weird. It gets a little stranger. Now, along the ley lines, people have been able to connect various sites. Chichen Itza, Stonehenge, the pyramids of Giza, the Great Pyramids of Giza. So, I mean, this is really strange, right? So, okay, now, occasionally These ley lines are geographically accurate, and sometimes people connect the supernatural and paranormal events that occurred along ley lines. People are like, wait a minute, this is a ley line because all these events occurred in these areas, and you could connect the dots, but then you could see that there's different landforms or man-made buildings that are dedicated to supernatural or spiritual things, such as churches or funeral homes or cemeteries. Things like Stonehenge, megaliths, monoliths, stuff like that. So these things are placed along ley lines, and also along the ley lines are paranormal and supernatural events, and people connect these things. Now, according to ancient-wisdom.com, the idea of ley lines didn't only come from this man, Alfred Watkins, but also there have always been the idea of invisible lines along the planet, and this is a partial list. Okay, so they have been called by the Irish the fairy paths, the paths on which fairies travel. There have been more supernatural sightings of fae folk. Fuck me. Did you guys hear that? Something just happened in my bathroom. As soon as I say that, now I'm feeling really spooked. I don't get easily spooked. This is spooking me. As soon as I say these words, I saw two fairies flying around my bedroom, and I kind of waved, and there's another one, and I kind of waved to it, and then all of a sudden something fell in my bathroom. I think I live on a ley line, guys. Oh, damn. I thought I was going to get some sleep tonight. Now it looks like perhaps no. That was... there was like literally nothing in there that could have fallen. I haven't been in there in hours. There's no way. Holy cow, that was so weird. Where is my boyfriend now? I need someone to hold me right this minute. It's too creepy. Sometimes things are too creepy. All right. Nabbit. It's not even... Is there anyone in this room? No. See, no, there's nothing. Except for the little fake folks. And I see you guys. I love you guys. But stop knocking things over. You're freaking me out. That was so weird. Getting right on back to the show. All right. So the fairy paths is what the Irish people call them. In China, they also know about these lines, and they're calling them dragon lines. Dragon lines. They're called spirit lines in Peru by the Peruvians. And the Australian Aborigines call these lines the song paths. Song paths. Now, they also are called Heilige Linien, or holy lines in Germany. So, if this guy just made up something random and wanted to coin a phrase and turn a little idea into something, and then it was published in a book in 1929, in fact, by 1929, he had abandoned the words ley lines, and Alfred Watkins started to call them old straight tracks or archaic tracks. which still meant the same thing, grid of points of supernatural or magical power. But, if it was just about this guy in 1929 or, 1921 through 1929 promoting this idea, then why are all these other cultures, including people before him, coming up with this idea? I mean, we are humans that have meridian lines running through our bodies. And you could trace the paths of nerves in the nervous system scientifically in our bodies. And the Chinese, in Chinese medicine and acupuncture, as well as acupressure, we have meridians and lines going up and down our bodies. As above, so below. As below, so above. It's one of the rules of the universe. Is it not? All right, and I'm sitting next to candles and I'm getting a chill. This is not right. All right, is there a ghost in there? Is there a spirit in there? There's not. What the hell is in my bathroom? Do I have is there an extraterrestrial? Is there an interdimensional being in my bathroom? No one's answering me. Is there a demon in my bathroom? No, thank God. The last thing I need is a demon in my bathroom. It would just smell so bad. Is there an angel in my bathroom? I don't know what the hell's in there. It's freaking me out. There's literally no way, an animal. There's no animals in here. There's nothing. What the F is going on? I'm starting to get the chills. Feel like there's spirits all around me, but there's not. That's what's so weird. Maybe this is part of the magnetosphere breakdown and the Schumann resonance crap that's going on that's so bizarre. I don't know. Y'all are interrupting my show. Oh, it's too weird. I want to put my sweater on, guys. I'm freaking out. I can't get a hug from my one true love. So I gotta hug myself with the sweater I got in Peru. Alright, I feel a little better. Got my sweater on. I'm wearing a brown and white llama sweater. What the dude would wear on the Big Lebowski. I call this my dude sweater. Alright, yeah, okay, so there's this one website I found. I'm gonna see if I can go to it because this was very interesting. Aside from my notes, it says other traditions. So now the Australian Aborigines they tell of a past stage which they call the dream time, when the creative gods traversed the country and they reshaped the land to conform with important paths that they called Turingas. So that's their ley lines word for ley lines, Turingas. Now, they said that at certain times of the year, these Turingas are revitalized by energies flowing through them that fertilizes the adjacent countryside. They also said that the lines can be used to receive messages over great distances. I wonder if our telepathy is not greater on these lines. I mean, this is really interesting idea, right? Now, the Incas used their spirit lines, or the seques or cheques, with the Inca temple of the sun in Cusco as the hub. It says that the Jesuit father Bernabe Cobo referred to these cheques in his History of the New World, written in 1653. Well, that's quite a bit older than 1921. So the skeptics are always kind of on Alfred Watkins' back about this, going, well, he was just full of crap or whatever. But I mean, I don't know. When you start hearing about this from other cultures from, 300 more years ago, it's kind of weird, right? So it says these were lines in which the wakas were placed and which were venerated by the local people. The cheques were described as sacred pathways. This is from the Incan Empire. The old word cheque or cheque means boundary or line. That would be in the original Quechua language of the Incas. Now, Cobo describes how these lines are not the same as those at Nazca, being only apparent in the alignment of the wakas. Now, that's another thing. I mean, there are lines at Nazca, and these could be different ley lines. There's definitely a real strange vibe about them. I took my kids in an airplane, and we flew over. Like, there's a tour. We didn't fly the plane. We paid for the tour, but we flew over the Nazca lines. It's like in about an hour. It's like $40. It's not very much. Shockingly, not nearly as much as I thought it would be. But, yeah, we flew over the lines. And they're definitely portals of energy. In fact, I have the monkey on my back right now. I got a tattoo in Cusco after I flew over the ley lines in Nazca. I mean, the lines in Nazca, and I got the monkey one on my back. And I feel energy going into my body directly from this. It's like a portal that opened up in my shoulder, in my back, like my upper left shoulder. I wanted to see the energy of these things. I wanted to be a part of it, and I knew that, it was part of my experience, so I added the tattoo, but there's a definite portal energy to each individual Nazca line. And I think they're in a corridor as well. So I have a feeling that they're also on a different ley line. But it says that the wakas were most often in the form of stones, springs, and often terminating near the summits of holy mountains. You're going to want to remember that, because when I say what I'm about to say in a minute, I'm going to put it together in a different way. So it says, documentary records made by the Spanish record that the Capac Hucha ceremonies of human sacrifice, usually they were children, took place at wakas as an annual event and also at times of disaster. In the 17th century, the Roman Catholic Church ordered the holy shrines be destroyed along these routes. Just like in Europe, many ancient holy places were built over with churches. So elsewhere in America, fragments of ancient tracts can still be found as the Mayan Sache, of which 16 have so far been found originating in Coba, Mexico. The Mayan country is Guatemala in southern Mexico. And then the rest of Mexico was the Aztec territory. Those are like the three major empires that we all read about as grade school children. So it says the following is a description of one found in the Yucatan. Now again, this is from ancientwisdom.com, ancient-wisdom.com if you want to read this. This article is enormous. It's a very good article on ley lines. So it says, a great causeway 32 feet wide, elevated from 2 to 8 feet above the ground, constructed of blocks of stone. It ran as far as we could follow it straight as an arrow, flat as a rule. The guide told us it extended 50 miles direct to Chichen Itza and started from the other chief town of Coba and ended at the Great Mound. 2 kilometers to the north of Noku, or the main temple in a great ruined building. So it says other ancient tracks have been found in New Mexico. These roads are barely visible at the ground level, and they radiate from Chaco Canyon. A lot of crazy mysteries in Chaco Canyon. I might want to get into that as well. It says, as in Bolivia, again back to South America, some of these paths run parallel, and others seem to lead to nowhere. Now, one of the major sites connected by the Anasazi roads is Pueblo Alto. Then it says, the German equivalent of ley lines is Heilige Linien, or holy lines. The area of Teutoburger Wald, also known as the German Heartland, has a significant network of these lines, which include the Externstein and the megalithic stone circle at Bad Meinberg. I have never freaking heard of that in all of my life. There's a megalithic stone circle in Germany? How come people don't talk about Germany more? I mean, it's not all about World War II, guys. There's stuff from beyond that, before that. Why the hell don't people give Germany its due? Like the weird old crap from before. Because it's an interesting country also. So, Teutoburger Wald, or the German Heartland, huh? I'm going to look some of this stuff up. I've got to. Look, the megalithic stone circle. I might do a megalithic stone circle episode now that I'm looking at this. So, all right. So that gives you an idea of just some. It's not all of them, but just some of the other traditions in which the idea of lines exist. You know, invisible lines of energy. Now, true Watkinsian ley lines are said to start or finish in the shape of a hill. And that was the part I said, listen, because I'm about to say something, and that's the something. So, in the Inca world, it ended in a mountain. In England, it ends in a hill. Now, if these are points of energy and they're real, if this is really true, that to me, where it ends in a hill or a mountain, that's probably where two ley lines intersect, the latitude and longitude versions of the ley lines intersect. And that would create the energetic node, which makes certain amount of sense, would it not? That it built up so much energy that it built up into a hill or a mountain. So it's like a node. It's a node of energy. It's like a power point. Not to be confused with the presentation software from Microsoft PowerPoint. All right, so let's see, where was I at? Okay, now, according to Alfred Watkins in his description of these things, he says that ley line marks or markers include mounds, long barrows, cairns, cursus, dolmens. Okay, these are like a bunch of made-up words. I'm just kidding. I know they're all in Ireland. I don't know what they all mean, though. Okay, and then the rest of these, we're all getting, the rest of us in the world will understand. I know I'm Irish, but I don't know all the words from Ireland. So, also, ley line markers would include standing stones, marked stones, stone circles, henges like Stonehenge, I would imagine. Henges, like there's more than one, that's weird, henges. Water markers are also involved, and these are more natural markers, okay? Moats, ponds, springs, fords, wells, castles, beacon hills, and churches and crossroads, and notches in hills, as well as camp forts where people set up camps, I guess. Well, that would make sense. I mean, castles and churches, it's like if you're energetically aware at all, you're going to build your castle and church on a line of power spiritually. Just makes sense to me. I don't know. I might live on a freaking ley line, dude. I'm now realizing, because I live like right next to a little river, which leads right into a big river. There's kind of a mound over there, actually, between the two, like right where the rivers meet. It's literally a crossroads of the rivers, and there's bridges over it. So that might mean something. That might mean, maybe I must live on a ley line. I always feel best on a ley lines that I've lived on before, Santa Barbara and Chico. All right, so let's see here. In Ireland, and I believe in England as well, they called these lines not just ley lines, but before that even, they were calling them spirit ways or death roads. And these were the paths that spirits took from their funerals to their final resting places. Very practical path of spirits, but also along these spirit paths or spirit ways, there was a lot more ghostly phenomenon, supernatural and paranormal type activity. And there were a lot of strange rituals and ideas that accompanied these spirit ways, especially as it pertained to funerals. So I'm going to tell you a couple of these that I thought this was in this article. It was very interesting. It didn't really, really have to do with the ley lines themselves. However, it's like very interesting. But maybe it does. Actually, maybe it actually does. People start doing these things because they're on a sacred pathway. So there were crossroads. Things that happened at the crossroads were prayers. Every time you hit a crossroad, you pray. Of course, Goddess Hecate is the goddess of the underworld. And I know this goes back to her. When you are at a crossroads, you are to pay a little bit of an homage, pay a little bit of attention to Goddess Hecate. Doesn't mean you're going to worship her or whatever, but if you have any kind of magical bone in your body, you're going to remember her. I remember her every time I come across a very specific, highly energetic crossroad. You know, tell her I love her and she's on my mind and send her prayers. And she's always protected me for doing this. Sometimes I've dropped the occasional flower at the crossroads. And it's just, I know it's like somehow deep in my genetics, in my Irish DNA to do stuff like this, because no one in my family ever did this but me. And now my kids do the same thing. When I told my youngest about it, he's like, oh, well, from now on, I'm going to always honor Goddess Hecate at the crossroads. It like just is almost like calling him home to tell him this stories. So when you're taking someone from their funeral to their final resting place at the cemetery, you're supposed to say prayers at all the crossroads. You're never supposed to cross the same path, and you're never supposed to go over a bridge more than once with a corpse. You're never supposed to cross the same way twice when you have a corpse. I believe that is because it will become a cursed place, and also the spirit of the person might get stuck there. And then they'll just molest everybody. They'll just bug everybody. And they'll become literally a pest, and that might lead to pestilence. And, well, we can't have that. But these death roads had a couple other names. They had the name Geisterweek or Doodweken. That's what they called the death roads, Doodweken. And when you're carrying a corpse, and probably in general, it's a good practice to never sing while you're on a bridge. I mean, you don't want to irritate the trolls underneath the bridge, right? The brothers McGruff. You don't want to irritate these people. You want to get quickly across the bridge as fast as humanly possible without having any incident. Something they didn't mention is when you approach a bridge, and especially if it's going over a waterway, you need to ask the river spirit if that's okay for safe passage. Will she grant you safe passage, and will it be okay to cross her water? I mean, I taught my kids that from a young age. It's very rude and disrespectful not to address the spirit of a riverway directly when you cross over a bridge. So if this is the very first time you're hearing about it and you go, oh man, I didn't know. Now, and if you've been crossing a bridge every day to get to and from work, you're going to have to tell the spirit you didn't know and apologize. And then from now on, remember to go, hey, spirit, hope everything's cool. Can I cross here? If you ask, the answer is always yes, But you just have to ask, and you have to give respect. You give respect to all the nature spirits around you, everything's going to be fine. So there's a lot, and besides never singing on a bridge, let alone with a corpse, which is worse, don't ever do that. Other things that people do along these lines, these ley lines with the funeral situation, is they will make sure that they bump specific stones along the way with the casket, supposedly for good luck. And you're also supposed to bump the sides of churches that you pass along the way while you're carrying the casket to its final resting place. And another really cool thing is that mourners, in the morning on the way to the church to a funeral, they will gather up a handful of stones. And every time they pass a crossroads, they drop a stone from their pocket. And they drop it upon a pile of mourners' stones from previous ceremonies. So if you're ever in Ireland, possibly in England, and you see a little pile of pebbles, don't touch them, okay? This is people letting go of their grief, dropping it like a stone. Mourner's pebbles. Now, in Ireland specifically, probably also I would imagine in Scotland, and possibly to a slightly lesser extent in England, if you travel along fairy lines, you must be respectful to the fae folk. Acknowledge that they exist and say, hey, hello. I hope you're doing good. Send the good love and energy. But the thing is, if you build a house upon a fairy line, it's going to be cursed by the fairy folk, because you've disrespected them by invading their territory without knowing it. When you don't have knowledge of something and then you build along their path, they will destroy your house. They will curse it first, destroy it second. Now that brings me to other ideas that is quite possible that also pertains to paradise. There's a lot of parts of that town that did feel cursed to me, and now I'm thinking possibly, was destroyed by a fire, which is literally a nature element called salamanders. salamander form, takes shape like a fire. So that's another little bit of food for thought. Oh, which reminds me, there's a lot of spirits, and I know there's a ley line in Flagstaff right now. There's a 1,000-acre wildfire out of control, so hashtag prayers for Flagstaff, hashtag prayers for Arizona. Another crazy forest fire just out of control. It's in the desert, and then they have like these forested parts, which are probably along ley lines, including Sedona and the Grand Canyon and Flagstaff herself, which is a very sweet city, actually. Crazy, right? That just happened tonight. So now, in China, we've talked about the dragon lines, or the flowing of dragon energy, or flow of dragon currents. These are also considered to be feng shui lines. Feng shui, literally translated, means wind and water. Now, the feng shui lines in China are determined by the routes of the sun, the moon, and the 5 major planets. In China, they are very well aware that Earth is covered by a magnetic field that is in the pattern of a grid, and they believe that this is part of the feng shui dragon current lines. Now, what's very odd about this, scientifically speaking, is that the magnetosphere covers the Earth. This is the magnetic field, the magnetosphere. But the magnetosphere, did you know, is affected by the positions of the sun, the moon, and 5 major planets. The magnetic currents are affected by these things. So, I mean, not only was Alfred Watkins onto something, but I feel like all of these different cultures spanning back centuries, if not millennia, also were onto something. Now, there have been many astronomical alignments, cycles of the celestial paths. Things are built along these. I mean, there is a point in Guatemala that if you go on a specific day during the specific 2 hours of the year through this monument in the northern jungle comes the sun, just for those couple hours. Now here in Ecuador, I've been to the Lost City of Gold. They believe it's the Lost City of Gold. Is it Pumapungo? Pachamarco. I can't remember right this very second. But just not too far from where I'm at, there's also a notch cut out that the sun will come through and light up. It was the building that it would light up that was built by the Incas. Because, see, I still live in Inca territory. It's not just in Peru, it's up and down, all the way up to Venezuela. And I think there's a lot of magnetic lines, there's a lot of ley lines along these. And it's following an astronomical alignment, most often of the sun. But sometimes I believe there is not just the house of the sun, but I believe that there's a moon one as well, built by the Incas. Now, there is the St. Michael's ley line that I spoke about earlier in Wales, and this one follows the sun on May 8th specifically. The sun goes directly over the lines in Wales that go through like 7 different things with a name, bearing the name St. Michael. And this is on May 8th, which is the spring festival of St. Michael. So that's weird, right? So all of these St. Michael related places that line up in a direct line is exactly where the sun is on the planet, directly overhead on the Festival of St. Michael, May 8th. I mean, that's spooky. It's like so spooky. Also, I wanted to notate here that Orion and the pyramidal complex in Egypt, all the three Great Pyramids, Great Pyramid and the other two pyramids, they have a direct lineup with Orion, the star system, Orion. So you could look at the pyramids and look at Orion and overlay the pattern of the pyramids over those stars. They're in exactly the same position because of astronomical alignments. And I know that the pyramids are also along a ley line. And the pyramidal complex there's a connection to Orion and Osiris, who is the Egyptian god of rebirth and the afterlife, which is yet again reflected in the idea of ley lines in Ireland with the spirit ways. You know, the death roads, the paths of the spirits. So there's another connection to the idea of rebirth and the afterlife. So, you know, the Aborigines of Australia, the Incas of Peru, I mean, even in Canada, and this is a really, really bizarre and spooky, freaky, icky one, there is a highway in Canada called the Highway of Tears. And that's what I was talking about earlier, about the positive and negative side. And in the 1970s was the first murder that was recorded on the Highway of Tears in Canada. And it's been going on and on and on. There's been so many murders and so many of women. And just in the past 15 hours, a couple who was traveling on the Highway of Tears, they were just murdered. Just like today. From like 1970 until today. Not a good place to travel, guys. Don't go there. Don't go to the Highway of Tears. There's also, and I think that's a negative one. And also there's the Trail of Tears that happened in California, which I did talk about during my talk about how to help native spirits. And also the famous Trail of Tears in the southern United States. I think that's a negatively affected ley line. In the California corridor, up and down all of California, there's been a lot of UFOs, a lot of UFO activity. And one time I telepathically connected with the occupants of a craft that I had seen. And I said, how do you travel so fast? And they said, we use the magnetic lines of the earth and travel along the ley lines. And we turn our engines off. That's why you don't hear our ships. Because we use magnets. We use a magnetic force field, and it's like electromagnetism. That's how they could blip in and out so fast. And then they go into subspace somehow. That's why they disappear. But then they reappear, and I think they reappear at nodes along these ley lines. It's just a weird, wild theory I've got, but there might be something to it. I mean, there are magnetic lines, a magnetosphere, and magnetic lines. Everyone knows, to be honest, these have already existed. So I don't know, I feel like even though the skeptics are skeptical of this idea, I believe that there's something to it. It's not just some dude in England making up something because he's an amateur archaeologist. I think there's a lot more to it. There's more in heaven and earth, Horatio, than is dreamt of in your philosophy. So there you go. There you have it. There's my episode on Ley Lines. Layla. Ley Lines. So Wayne, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I love you, buddy. I'm glad. I'm glad you gave me the idea. It was a cool idea. Sorry it took me weeks to get to it, but we did it now, so woohoo! Thank you for your patience. And to the rest of you, thank you for your patience. I know this is 2 hours late. I just had lost my head for a moment, couldn't find it for hours because of the Schumann resonance nonsense. I don't know if I'm in a place where it's super, super high today or super, super like zero, low, to the point of being below normal. Some kind of wonky crap is happening to us, though. I don't know what it is, but I want to stop contemplating it right now because there's those things in my bathroom falling over, which makes absolutely zero sense. I think I'm going to go in the living room for a while to kind of get away from my bathroom. Maybe I'll go watch Friends or something. Anyway, I love each and every one of you. I wish you good peace, good health, joy, happiness, and mental clarity, as well as physical energy and stability. Something we're all seeking right this moment. Anyway, but now that's all I gotta say about that. So I'm signing off with peace and joy and the high vibes of the holy fifth dimension. Until next time, guys, peace.